The winds howled across the desolate ruins of New Haven Varus Abbey, carrying ash and the faint stench of decay. What was once a thriving metropolis now stood as a testament to the devastation wrought by the Great War 250 years ago. The gray sky stretched endlessly above the crumbling structures, a perpetual reminder of how far civilization had fallen. Flies buzzed over scattered debris, their presence the only constant movement in this wasteland where the Valoran and humanity had once fought to extinction. Kalira moved silently through the ruins, her blue skin darkened by years of hardship, her once vibrant bichromatic eyes now carrying the weight of centuries. Standing nearly 6 feet tall, she still maintained the imposing presence that had once made her a feared Valoran captain. Her bioweave armor, though weathered, pulsed with faint energy as it enhanced her already formidable physical abilities. Time had etched scars across her left shoulder, and threads of silver now streaked through her hair, but her determination remained undiminished. The memories of 250 years ago remained crystal clear. She could still see herself leading her Valoran infantry unit, tracking human military holdouts to a secret cave. Her orders from General Lodos had been explicit: capture or eliminate all humans, especially the one they called the human warrior, and report immediately. This human apparently held secrets that could turn the tide of the war. When she had finally found him, the scene was one of absolute carnage. Bodies of both Valoran and humans littered the cave entrance. And there he stood, Alex Reeves, the human warrior. His plasma armor was cracked and failing, blood seeping through multiple wounds. Yet his eyes burned with fierce resolve as he guarded the entrance to an old, stellar base. "Finish me," he had rasped, his voice barely audible over the sounds of distant warfare. "But don't let the cryogenesis technology fall into enemy hands." Something had changed in Kalira at that moment. Looking at the wasteland of bodies surrounding them, she felt no glory, only a profound shame. The devastation was not a triumph, but a tragedy. For the first time in her military career, she hesitated. Instead of killing Alex as ordered, she had secretly placed him in an ancient cryopod buried deep within the earth. As she watched the cryo chamber seal, her expression had been tense, but resolute. "If I don't protect you," she whispered, "the legacy of peace might turn to ashes." Now, 250 years later, Kalira navigated the outskirts of what was now classified as a red zone. New Haven Varus Abbey had become a scattered settlement of survivors amidst constantly bombarded ruins. Her mission was clear: return to the secret cave and awaken Alex. Intelligence reports indicated that the cryogenesis technology was being hunted by the enemy, and time was running out. The journey to the cave meant crossing the Death Borderlands, where nature itself had been twisted beyond recognition. Acid rain fell in thick curtains, toxic gases hung in the air like fog, and mutated vegetation clawed at anything that moved. Kalira moved cautiously, avoiding automated patrol drones that hunted both Valoran migrants and human civilians without discrimination. As she navigated the treacherous landscape, fragments of Alex's first awakening flickered through her mind. His panic, memories of burning camps, his mind struggling to process his situation. She pushed these thoughts aside, focusing on the task at hand. Finally reaching the hidden entrance, Kalira descended into darkness. The cave walls glistened with condensation, groundwater slowly dripping from stalactites above. She made her way deeper until she reached the chamber where she had hidden the cryo chamber so many years ago. Activating the revival system, she watched as white cold vapor filled the dark cave. The ancient machinery hummed to life, the sound echoing off the stone walls. Slowly, the chamber opened, revealing the still form of Alex Reeves. His eyes flew open suddenly, combat reflexes immediately kicking in as he reached for a weapon that wasn't there. His muscles were atrophied, but his battle-trained mind was fully operational. "Who are you? "Where am I?" he demanded, struggling to sit up. "They found us," Kalira murmured, her voice low and urgent. "And I don't have time to explain." Despite his weakened state, Alex managed to follow Kalira out of the cave. When they emerged, he stared in shock at the war-torn landscape. Signal components, Orion artillery, and the bodies of both Valoran and humans lay scattered in chaotic disarray. "What happened?" he whispered, taking in the devastation. 250 years of war," Kalira replied grimly. "We need to move. Our destination is Nova Bastion, the only strategic center with at least one friendly Valoran and human resistance group." They set off immediately, Kalira supporting Alex as his strength gradually returned. Their journey took them through perilous terrain, avoiding patrols and scavenging supplies where they could. After 3 days of careful travel, they encountered a resistance patrol led by Commander Thal, the son of General Lodos, now a resistance general himself. His reaction to seeing Kalira was immediate suspicion. "You disappeared," he accused, his weapon trained on her. "Left behind your comrades and enemies alike. Rumors say you betrayed us." "She saved my life," Alex interjected, standing straighter despite his weakened condition. "I'm alive to know she's not the enemy." After tense negotiations, Thal agreed to allow them to join his Space Ranger squad on their journey to Nova Bastion, under the condition that both would be closely monitored. Their convoy soon faced its first major challenge when crossing the Pyro Sands, a desert where fire erupted spontaneously from the ground. They were ambushed by a mercenary army known as Cerberus Corp. The attack was swift and brutal, forcing Kalira and Alex to work together to help the mobile team escape. During their escape, they encountered Dr. Celine Arkwright, a human scientist who followed the glorious reconciliation doctrine. She had been Alex's assistant before the war erupted. While treating Alex's wounds on the medical ship, she shared disturbing information about the Marauders Nova project. "The Blackthorn organization has been hunting for you, Kalira," Dr. Arkwright revealed as she applied regenerative gel to Alex's wounds. "You're their #1 elimination target for hiding Alex." In the following days, Kalira and Alex exchanged skills and knowledge. She explained Valoran battle tactics, while he reinforced human combat techniques among the resistance fighters. As they trained together, a grudging respect began to form between them, transcending centuries of hostility. When they finally reached Nova Bastion, a hidden space station inside an icy comet, remnants of the old alliance, Commander Thal delivered grim news. "The Blackthorn faction is aggressively hunting this place," he reported in the command center. "They possess a technology called Marauders Nova that can erase all living cells within a 300-kilometer radius." Dr. Arkwright elaborated. "Blackthorn has been developing the Marauders Nova project using G-singularity principles, radioactive explosives combined with quantum circuitry. Their goal is to cleanse the Alliance descendants and establish a pure Valoran empire." Alex secretly photographed the documents, intending to alert humans outside the Resistance network. Their planning was interrupted when Colonel Atheron, leading Blackthorn forces, launched an attack on Nova Bastion using a robotic scout squadron. The situation became desperate. Thal ordered the evacuation of militia and civilians through a second hidden tunnel, with Alex and Kalira leading the tactical guidance for the scout team. Kalira, Alex, and Dr. Arkwright rushed to the control center to disable the automated defense system. Only then could they transmit the weapon secrets to the Human Resistance Alliance outside. In the fourth underground corridor, Kalira faced Atheron, her former mentor, who had taught her arena skills, now transformed into an assassin. Their hand-to-hand combat was intense. Atheron employed the Valoran Vortex of Doom technique, while Kalira countered with Flare Strike. Both simultaneously wielded plasma guns. Meanwhile, Alex reached the control center, facing the AI protection system, a direct confrontation between human ingenuity and technology. He hacked circuits, decrypted firewalls, and redirected the defense system against the enemy forces. The climactic moment came when Atheron was about to sever Kalira with his ion sword. Alex rushed in to intercept, suffering severe injuries. Kalira, tears in her eyes, used the blood flare ray to defeat Atheron. The tension mounted as Thal's comrades brought Dr. Arkwright throughout the control room. The system was about to reactivate the Marauder's Nova. Alex plugged in a USB containing destruction code into the main port. The system shut down, leaving only the sound of optical feedback humming in the machines. "Before dying," Atheron whispered, "you betrayed me, our Valoran roots." "This is a fitting end," Kalira replied coldly. "The responsibility is to build the future, not hate the past." Though Nova Bastion lost most of its defense tools, the Marauder's Nova weapon had been neutralized. Alex collapsed from losing 80% of his blood, and Dr. Arkwright and Thal rushed him to the optical medical chamber. News spread that the Human Alliance, an off-planet network, had received evidence about the Marauder's Nova and was preparing military intervention. Kalira faced a crisis of faith when the Valoran scholarly community, the Starlore Library Society, invited her to testify. "You hid a deadly biological weapon. You could have prevented civil war within Valor, as well as war with humanity." All of Nova Bastion was engulfed in ethical crisis. The Glory Renaissance faction, advocating Valoran human harmony, and the Blood Fertilization faction, extremists seeking comprehensive revenge, erupted in fierce debate. As Alex recovered, he spoke with Kalira. "You saved me again, this time not to run away but to do what's right." Thal calculated. "The Human Alliance will launch within 48 hours. We need to propose a joint ceasefire to identify the Valoran traitors who want to wipe out everyone." Kalira prepared documentary evidence, recordings, images, data, to send to the Alliance and the Valoran Preferential Council. A mixed council was convened, including moderate Valoran representatives, high-ranking humans, and the Human Resistance Group. Kalira and Alex stood before the forum, presenting the truth. The Marauder's Nova is not the will of all Valoran, but a conspiracy by Blackthorn and extremist descendants. They want to eliminate both our species. Heated debate followed. Some extremist Valoran members opposed, but the majority recognized the harsh truth. Without unity, the entire planet would become a radioactive desert. Dr. Arkwright signed the Community Defense Pact, ensuring the dismantling of all destructive weapons and sharing of biomedical technology. Kalira declared, "I renounce my role as a warrior. I choose to become a peace messenger." Alex patted her shoulder, looking at the mixed crowd. "Let's go. There's much to do." 3 months later, Valoran and humans worked together to rebuild Nova Bastion into the Reconciliation Sanctuary, a floating city on Thuong Moi's moon, a joint commercial academic center. Kalira and Alex stood by the shore of a blue-streaked sunlight lake, watching the nebula light reflect. She gently took a blue flower, symbol of Valoran soldiers, from her pocket, dropped it into the water, and said softly, "Each time we remember the past, let this symbolic flower remind us. We lived to allow love." Their silhouettes receded, leaving behind the image of children from both species playing together, showing hope for a generation without hatred. The winds carried dust and debris across the ruins of New Haven Varus Abbey, a testament to the devastation wrought by 250 years of conflict between the Valoran and humanity. Kalira moved through the skeletal remains of what had once been a thriving metropolis. Her once vibrant blue skin, now weathered by centuries of hardship. At 6 feet tall, she still maintained the imposing presence that had made her a feared Valoran captain. Though silver now threaded through her hair and scars marked her left shoulder. Her bioweave armor, though dulled by time, still pulsed with energy as it augmented her already formidable physical abilities. Her deep, teal eyes scanned the horizon constantly, alert for the automated drones that patrolled this red zone, hunting both Valoran migrants and human survivors without discrimination. The memories of that fateful day 250 years ago remained crystal clear. She had been leading her Valoran infantry unit, tracking human military holdouts to a secret cave. Her orders from General Lodos had been explicit: capture or eliminate all humans, especially the one they called the human warrior, and report immediately. This human apparently possessed secrets that could turn the tide of the war. When she had finally found him, the scene was one of absolute carnage. Bodies of both Valoran and humans littered the cave entrance. And there he stood, Alex Reeves, the human warrior. His plasma armor was cracked and failing, blood seeping from multiple wounds. Yet his eyes burned with fierce resolve as he guarded the entrance to an old, stellar base. "Finish me," he had rasped, his voice barely audible over the sounds of distant warfare. "But don't let the cryogenesis technology fall into enemy hands." Something had shifted inside Kalira at that moment. Looking at the wasteland of bodies surrounding them, she felt no glory, only a profound shame. The devastation was not a triumph, but a tragedy. For the first time in her military career, she hesitated. Instead of killing Alex as ordered, she had secretly placed him in an ancient cryopod buried deep within the earth. As she watched the cryo chamber seal, her expression had been tense but resolute. "If I don't protect you," she whispered, "the legacy of peace might turn to ashes." That decision had cost her everything. She had disappeared afterward, reported as missing in action, leaving behind her rank, her comrades, and her place in Valoran society. For 250 years, she had lived as an outcast, watching from the shadows as the war between their species raged on, transforming once beautiful landscapes into wastelands. Now, intelligence reports indicated that the cryogenesis technology was being hunted by the enemy. The time had come to awaken Alex and face the consequences of her choice. The journey to the hidden cave meant crossing the death borderlands, where nature itself had been twisted beyond recognition. Acid rain fell in thick curtains, toxic gases hung in the air like fog, and mutated vegetation clawed at anything that moved. Kalira navigated this treacherous landscape with practiced caution, her every sense alert for danger. A patrol of drones buzzed overhead, their sensors sweeping the terrain. Kalira pressed herself against the rusted hull of an ancient transport vessel, holding her breath until the mechanical hunters passed. Once the skies were clear, she continued her journey, moving swiftly through the shadows of broken buildings and twisted metal. As she traveled, fragments of memory flashed through her mind. Alex's face as she had sealed him in the cryo chamber, the accusations of her superiors when she returned without him, the years of solitude that followed. She pushed these thoughts aside, focusing on the task at hand. Finally reaching the hidden entrance to the cave, concealed behind a cascade of mutated vines, Kalira descended into darkness. The cave walls glistened with condensation, groundwater slowly dripping from stalactites above. She navigated the winding passages from memory, until she reached the chamber where she had hidden the cryopod so many years ago. The ancient technology was remarkably preserved, protected from the ravages of time by the stable environment of the cave. Kalira approached the control panel, brushing away layers of dust to reveal the activation sequence. With practiced movements, she initiated the revival process. The chamber hummed to life, white vapor filling the dark cave as the cryogenic system began to warm its occupant. Kalira stepped back, watching as the pod's cover slid open with a pneumatic hiss. For a moment, Alex remained motionless, appearing exactly as he had 250 years ago. Then, suddenly, his eyes flew open, combat reflexes immediately kicking in. He reached for a weapon that wasn't there, his body tensing despite the muscle atrophy from centuries of stasis. "Who are you? "Where am I?" he demanded, his voice hoarse from disuse. Kalira moved closer, her expression grim. "They found us," she said urgently. "And I don't have time to explain." Alex struggled to sit up, his body responding sluggishly after centuries of inactivity. He stared at Kalira, confusion evident in his expression as he tried to reconcile the blue-skinned Valoran before him with his last memories of combat. "You're Valoran," he managed, his voice strengthening. "Why would you help me?" "I made that choice 250 years ago," Kalira replied, helping him to his feet. "And I'm making it again now. Can you walk?" Alex nodded, determination overriding his physical weakness. With Kalira's support, he made his way out of the cave and into a world he no longer recognized. The landscape that greeted him was one of utter devastation. Where there had once been forests and cities, there was now only barren wasteland, signal components, Orion artillery, and the bodies of both Valoran and humans lay scattered in chaotic disarray, evidence of ongoing conflict. "What happened?" he whispered, taking in the alien landscape. 250 years of war," Kalira replied grimly. "We need to move. Our destination is Nova Bastion, the only strategic center with at least one friendly Valoran and human resistance group." Despite his weakened state, Alex's military training took over. He assessed the terrain, noting potential threats and escape routes with practiced efficiency. "Lead the way," he said, straightening his posture despite the pain of reawakened muscles. They set off immediately, Kalira supporting Alex when necessary as they traversed the dangerous terrain. She explained the current situation in terse sentences, between periods of cautious silence. "After I hid you, both sides escalated. Experimental weapons, biological agents, orbital bombardments. The planet's ecosystem collapsed within decades. Most survivors live in underground bunkers or off-world colonies now." Alex processed this information with military detachment, though the weight of it was evident in his expression. "And Nova Bastion? What is it exactly?" "Originally a human stronghold," Kalira replied. "Now a mixed refuge hidden in a comet's core. Possibly the last place where Valoran and humans work together, rather than trying to exterminate each other." Their journey was arduous. Alex's strength returned gradually, his genetically enhanced physiology recovering from cryostasis faster than a normal human's would have. By the third day, he was moving independently, though still far from his former combat readiness. They avoided populated areas, skirting the edges of settlements where desperate survivors might see them as targets rather than allies. Water was scarce and often contaminated, food even more so. They subsisted on nutrient capsules from Kalira's supplies and what little they could forage from the hostile environment. On the fourth day, they encountered their first major obstacle, a patrol from the resistance forces. Led by Commander Thal, whom Kalira recognized with shock as the son of General Lodos. Now a resistance general himself, the patrol surrounded them with weapons drawn. Thal's reaction to seeing Kalira was immediate recognition, followed by suspicion. "Captain Kalira," he said, his tone cold. "You disappeared 250 years ago, left behind your comrades and enemies alike. The records say you were hunting the human warrior." His gaze shifted to Alex. "I see you found him." "She saved my life," Alex interjected, standing straighter despite his weakened condition. "I'm alive to know she's not the enemy." Thal's expression remained skeptical. "My father spent years searching for you, Captain. He believed you had betrayed our cause, defected to the humans." "I chose peace over genocide," Kalira replied evenly. "If that's betrayal, then yes. I betrayed the Valoran command, but not our people." After tense negotiations, Thal agreed to allow them to join his Space Ranger squad on their journey to Nova Bastion, under the condition that both would be closely monitored. "If either of you attempts to communicate with outside forces, or sabotage our mission, he warned. You'll be executed immediately. The squad traveled in a convoy of heavily armored vehicles, making their way across the blasted landscape toward the hidden launch site that would take them to Nova Bastion. Alex and Kalira were separated, each assigned to different vehicles, and kept under constant surveillance. During a brief rest period, Alex found himself seated across from a human scientist who introduced herself as Dr. Celine Arkwright. Her eyes widened when he gave his name. "Alex Reeves? The Alex Reeves?" she asked. Her voice hushed. "But that's impossible. You would be over 300 years old." "Cryostasis," Alex replied simply. "Apparently I've been asleep for 250 years. Dr. Arkwright studied him with scientific interest. "Remarkable. The cellular preservation is perfect." She hesitated, then added, "I was your assistant. You know. Not you personally, but your department. I studied the archive data from your research team on neural enhancement. Your work laid the foundation for the cerebral augmentation technology we use today." Before Alex could respond, an alarm blared through the convoy. They were under attack. The Pyrosands lived up to their name as the convoy traversed them. A desert where fire erupted spontaneously from the ground, spewing molten metal into the air. The attack came without warning. Mercenary forces of the Cerberus Corp descending upon them with practiced precision. Explosions rocked the vehicles, sending them skidding across the treacherous terrain. Alex was thrown against the wall of the transport, his barely recovered body protesting the impact. Around him, resistance fighters scrambled for weapons, preparing to defend against the assault. Despite the guards' earlier warnings, Thal himself released both Alex and Kalira, recognizing that their combat experience could be the difference between survival and annihilation. "Prove your loyalty," he ordered, pressing weapons into their hands. The battle was chaos. Mercenaries in advanced combat suits swarmed the convoy from all sides, their weapons cutting through the Resistance's defenses with terrifying efficiency. Alex and Kalira fought back to back, their combat styles complementing each other as if they had trained together for years. Kalira's bioweave armor flared with energy as she engaged the enemy. Her movements, a deadly dance of precision and power. Alex, despite his still recovering strength, demonstrated why he had been known as the human warrior. His tactical acumen, allowing him to anticipate and counter the mercenaries' attacks. Together with the resistance fighters, they managed to repel the initial assault. But the convoy had been badly damaged. 3 vehicles were destroyed, and many fighters were wounded or killed. Among the injured was Dr. Arkwright, who had been caught in an explosion while attempting to retrieve critical medical supplies. As they retreated to a defensible position, Kalira helped carry the injured scientist to the makeshift medical area. While treating Dr. Arkwright's wounds on the remaining medical ship, the doctor shared disturbing information about the Marauders Nova project. "The Blackthorn organization has been hunting for you, Kalira," Dr. Arkwright revealed, as Alex applied regenerative gel to her burns. "You're their #1 elimination target for hiding Alex. They've spent centuries developing weapons based on the very technology you tried to protect." "What technology?" Alex asked, his hands stilling on the medkit. "The cryogenesis?" Dr. Arkwright shook her head weakly. "Not just that. Your team was working on quantum singularity containment, technology that could either provide unlimited clean energy or, in the wrong hands, create weapons of unimaginable destructive power." Kalira's expression darkened. "And Blackthorn has weaponized it." "They call it the Marauders Nova project," Dr. Arkwright confirmed. "A weapon that can erase all living cells within a 300-kilometer radius, leaving infrastructure intact for the victors to claim. They plan to use it to eliminate both resistant Valoran and all remaining humans, leaving only their pure-blood faction to inherit the planet." The convoy continued its journey with increased urgency, limping toward the launch site with the knowledge that their enemy was more dangerous than they had initially believed. During this time, Kalira and Alex began to earn the trust of their companions through their actions rather than words. In the following days, they exchanged skills and knowledge with the resistance fighters. Kalira explained Valoran battle tactics, while Alex reinforced human combat techniques. As they trained together, a grudging respect began to form between them, transcending centuries of hostility. Alex found himself increasingly drawn to Kalira, fascinated by the Valoran who had sacrificed everything to preserve peace. "Why did you do it?" he asked her, during a rare moment alone, as they stood watch together under the stars. "Why save me? You must have known the consequences." Kalira was silent for a long moment, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon. "I saw too much death," she finally replied. "Too much destruction. In that moment when I found you in the cave, I realized that if we continued on that path, there would be nothing left worth fighting for. No victory, only extinction." "And now?" Alex asked quietly. "Now I hope to finish what I started," she said, turning to meet his gaze. "To prove that peace is possible, even after centuries of hatred." When they finally reached the launch site, they found it in ruins. The Blackthorn faction had preceded them, destroying the facilities and leaving only a single damaged shuttle intact. Thal's face was grim as he assessed their options. "We can fit half our number on that shuttle," he said. "The rest will have to remain behind and try to reach the secondary extraction point. Or we repair it," Alex suggested, already examining the damaged craft. "I was a field engineer before I was a soldier. With the right tools and parts, I can make this shuttle carry all of us." For 3 days, Alex worked tirelessly on the shuttle, assisted by Kalira and several technically inclined resistance fighters. They scavenged parts from the destroyed facilities, repurposed equipment, and improvised solutions for damaged components. Against all odds, they managed to increase the shuttle's capacity and restore its vital systems to operational status. The launch was tense, the overloaded shuttle straining against gravity as it climbed toward the stars. But Alex's modifications held, and they successfully broke atmosphere, setting course for the hidden space station inside an icy comet, Nova Bastion, remnants of the old Alliance. Nova Bastion was a marvel of engineering, a self-contained ecosystem carved into the heart of a comet. Its exterior was indistinguishable from the surrounding ice, making it nearly impossible to detect without prior knowledge of its location. Inside, narrow corridors and cramped chambers housed hundreds of refugees, both human and Valoran, working together to survive in the hostile environment of space. Upon their arrival, Commander Thal delivered grim news to the station's leadership council. "The Blackthorn faction is aggressively hunting this place," he reported in the command center. "They possess a technology called Marauder's Nova that can erase all living cells within a 300-kilometer radius. If they locate us, we won't stand a chance." Dr. Arkwright, now recovered enough to attend the council meeting, elaborated. "Blackthorn has been developing the Marauder's Nova project using G-singularity principles, radioactive explosives combined with quantum circuitry. Their goal is to cleanse the Alliance descendants and establish a pure Valoran empire." The council erupted into argument, fear and desperation evident in every voice. Some advocated immediate evacuation, others for strengthening defenses, still others for launching a preemptive strike against known Blackthorn facilities. In the chaos, Alex quietly photographed the technical documents about the Marauder's Nova that Dr. Arkwright had provided, intending to alert humans outside the resistance network about the nature of the threat they faced. The debate was cut short by the station's alarm system. Blackthorn had found them. Colonel Atheron, leading Blackthorn forces, launched an attack on Nova Bastion using a robotic scout squadron to probe their defenses. The initial assault was merely testing their strength, but it confirmed what they had feared. Their location was compromised. The situation became desperate. Thal ordered the evacuation of militia, and civilians through a second hidden tunnel, with Alex and Kalira leading the tactical guidance for the scout team. Meanwhile, the station's defenders prepared for the main attack that would surely follow. Kalira, Alex, and Dr. Arkwright rushed to the control center with a daring plan. The station's automated defense system, while powerful, could not distinguish between friend and foe once activated. They needed to disable it temporarily, allowing them to transmit the weapon secrets to the Human Resistance Alliance outside, then reactivate it to defend against Blackthorn's forces. The control center was deep within the station, protected by multiple security checkpoints. As they made their way through the fourth underground corridor, they were ambushed by a Blackthorn advance team led by Atheron himself, Kalira's former mentor, who had taught her arena skills. Now transformed into an assassin dedicated to Blackthorn's extremist cause. "The traitor returns," Atheron said, his voice echoing in the narrow corridor. 250 years. Kalira. 250 years I've waited to complete what you left unfinished. I finished exactly what needed to be finished, Kalira replied, her bio-weave armor activating as she prepared for combat. Stand down, Atheron. This doesn't have to end in more bloodshed. Atheron's laugh was cold. Bloodshed is our heritage, our glory. You've forgotten what it means to be Valoran. Their hand-to-hand combat was intense, a deadly dance between master and former student. Atheron employed the Valoran Vortex of Doom technique, a spinning attack that created a vacuum capable of crushing bones, while Kalira countered with Flare Strike, channeling energy from her bio-weave armor into devastating blows. Both simultaneously wielded plasma guns, the corridor lighting up with energy discharges that scorched the walls. While Kalira engaged Atheron, Alex and Dr. Arkwright continued toward the control center. They encountered their own obstacles, a sophisticated AI protection system that recognized Alex as an enemy combatant from centuries ago. This was a direct confrontation between human ingenuity and technology, with Alex hacking circuits, decrypting firewalls, and ultimately redirecting the defense system against the enemy forces. Dr. Arkwright worked alongside him, her knowledge of the station systems proving invaluable as they navigated the complex security protocols. The main control node is through here, she said, indicating a heavily armored door. Once inside, we'll have about 3 minutes before the system locks us out and initiates full defensive protocols. Alex nodded, his fingers flying over the control panel as he bypassed the final security measure. The door slid open, revealing a chamber filled with humming servers and holographic displays showing the station's status. Start the transmission, he instructed Dr. Arkwright. I'll keep the system from locking us out. While Dr. Arkwright began transmitting the Marauders' Nova schematics to the Human Alliance, Alex engaged in a digital battle with the station's AI, constantly redirecting its attention and preventing it from interrupting their work. Meanwhile, Kalira's battle with Atheron reached its climax. Though she fought with all her skill, Atheron's centuries of combat experience began to tell. He knocked her plasma gun aside and pressed his advantage, his ion sword humming with deadly energy as he prepared for the killing blow. Your treachery ends here, he snarled, raising the weapon. The blade descended, only to be intercepted by Alex, who had returned from the control center after completing his task. The ion sword sliced through his shoulder instead of Kalira's neck, sending him crashing to the floor with a cry of pain. Kalira's eyes widened in shock, then narrowed with cold fury. Using the momentary distraction, she activated her blood flare ray, a concentrated energy beam from her bio-weave armor, and struck Atheron directly in the chest. The Blackthorn leader collapsed, fatally wounded. You betrayed me, Atheron gasped, blood trickling from his mouth. Our Valoran roots. This is a fitting end. Kalira knelt beside him, her expression hard. The responsibility is to build the future, she said quietly. not hate the past. With Atheron defeated, Kalira rushed to Alex's side. The ion sword had cauterized the wound as it cut, preventing immediate blood loss. But the injury was severe. She helped him to his feet, supporting his weight as they made their way back to the control center, where Dr. Arkwright was fighting her own battle. The tension mounted as Thal's comrades brought reports from throughout the station. The system was about to reactivate the Marauder's Nova, which Blackthorn had somehow managed to install within Nova Bastion itself. If activated, it would destroy not only the station but all life in the surrounding region of space. With seconds to spare, Alex plugged in a USB containing destruction code into the main port. The system froze, then shut down, leaving only the sound of optical feedback humming in the machines. "Did it work?" Kalira asked, her voice tense. Alex nodded weakly, the loss of blood beginning to take its toll. "The weapon's neutralized. The code corrupts the quantum synchronization. Can't be rebuilt without complete redesign." His words slurred as he collapsed, having lost nearly 80% of his blood. Dr. Arkwright and Thal rushed him to the optical medical chamber, an advanced healing pod that was Nova Bastion's most precious medical resource. As Alex fought for his life in the medical chamber, news spread throughout the Resistance Network. The Human Alliance, an off-planet network of colonies and ships that had maintained independence from the conflict, had received the evidence about the Marauder's Nova and was preparing military intervention against Blackthorn. For 3 days, Kalira maintained vigil outside the medical chamber, leaving only when forced to eat or rest. On the 4th day, Alex finally stabilized, though he remained unconscious. Dr. Arkwright's prognosis was cautiously optimistic. "His enhanced physiology is remarkable," she told Kalira. "Any normal human would have died instantly from that wound. He'll recover, given time." During this period, Kalira faced a crisis of faith when the Valeran scholarly community, the Starlore Library Society, which had maintained records and knowledge throughout the centuries of war, invited her to testify about her actions 250 years ago. "You hid a deadly biological weapon and a key human scientist," the Society's elder accused. "You could have prevented civil war within Valor, as well as continued war with humanity. Millions died because of your choice. Millions would have died regardless." Kalira responded firmly. "The weapon would have been used, then replicated. Instead of peace, we would have had extinction. I chose the harder path, preserving the possibility of reconciliation, no matter how distant it seemed." The debate spread throughout Nova Bastion, dividing its inhabitants into factions. The Glory Renaissance Group advocated for Valoran human harmony, pointing to their successful cooperation within the station as proof that peaceful coexistence was possible. The blood fertilization extremists sought comprehensive revenge against Blackthorn, but remained suspicious of all humans, arguing that only through strength and dominance could the Valoran race survive. 7 days after the battle, Alex finally regained consciousness. Kalira was at his side when he opened his eyes, her relief evident despite her attempt to maintain composure. "You saved me again," Alex said weakly, his voice barely above a whisper. "This time not to run away, but to do what's right." "We saved each other," Kalira corrected, "and nearly died in the process. How do you feel?" "Like I've been asleep for 250 years, then stabbed with an ion sword," Alex replied with a ghost of a smile. "So, all things considered, better than expected." Their reunion was interrupted by Commander Thal, who brought urgent news. "The Human Alliance will launch within 48 hours, he reported. "Their fleet is already moving into position. We need to propose a joint ceasefire to identify the remaining Blackthorn agents who want to wipe out everyone." Kalira nodded, her expression resolute. "I'll prepare the evidence, recordings, images, data, everything we have on Blackthorn's plans and the Marauder's Nova. The Alliance needs to understand that not all Valoran are their enemies. For the next 2 days, They worked tirelessly to compile a comprehensive case against Blackthorn. Dr. Arkwright provided scientific analysis of the Marauder's Nova technology, demonstrating how it had been perverted from its original purpose as a clean energy source. Alex, still recovering but determined to help, contributed his historical knowledge and military insight, while Calera added her personal testimony and evidence gathered during her centuries as an outcast. As the Human Alliance fleet approached, a mixed council was convened within Nova Bastion, including moderate Valoran representatives, high-ranking humans from the station, and communication links to the approaching Alliance fleet. Calera and Alex stood before this diverse forum, presenting the truth with unwavering conviction. "The Marauder's Nova is not the will of all Valoran," Calera declared, her voice carrying throughout the chamber. "It is the twisted ambition of Blackthorn and their extremist descendants. They seek to eliminate both our species, creating a purified Valoran empire from the ashes of our civilizations." Alex continued, his voice stronger than his physical condition would suggest. "I've seen the evidence. Blackthorn has infiltrated both Valoran and human power structures, manipulating us against each other while they develop weapons that threaten all life. This isn't about humans versus Valoran anymore. It's about survival against extinction." Heated debate followed their presentation. Some extremist Valoran members opposed any cooperation with humans, while certain human representatives remained skeptical of Valoran intentions after centuries of warfare. But as the evidence mounted and the threat of the Marauder's Nova became clear, the majority recognized the harsh truth. Without unity, the entire system would become a radioactive void. After hours of tense negotiation, Dr. Arkwright proposed the Community Defense Pact, a framework for cooperation that would ensure the dismantling of all planet-killing weapons, the sharing of biomedical technology, and the establishment of mixed settlements where both species could live together. "We've proven it can work here in Nova Bastion," she argued. "Different biologies, different cultures, but united by common needs and aspirations. The alternative is mutual destruction." To everyone's surprise, Commander Thal was the first to sign the pact, followed by the human station leader. With these signatures, a fragile foundation for peace was established, not a complete resolution to centuries of conflict, but a beginning. As the council session ended, Calera stood before her people one last time as a warrior. "I renounce my role as a soldier," she declared, removing the insignia of her long-abandoned rank. "I choose to become a peace messenger. The path ahead will be difficult, filled with setbacks and resistance from those who profit from our division. But it is the only path that leads to a future worth having." Alex joined her, still pale from his injuries, but standing tall. "Let's go," he said quietly, looking out at the mixed crowd of humans and Valoran. "There's much to do." The following months were filled with difficult work. While the Human Alliance maintained a military presence in the system to deter any Blackthorn resurgence, Calera and Alex traveled between settlements, sharing their story and building support for the Community Defense Pact. They faced resistance and even assassination attempts, but gradually, their message began to take hold. 3 months after the battle at Nova Bastion, the first concrete results of their efforts became visible. Valoran and human engineers worked together to rebuild part of Nova Bastion into what they called the Reconciliation Sanctuary, a floating city on Thuong Moi's moon, designed as a joint commercial and academic center where both species could interact peacefully. On the day of the sanctuary's inauguration, after the formal ceremonies had ended, Calera and Alex found a moment of quiet together on an observation deck overlooking an artificial lake where the waters reflected the nebula light from above. Calera gently took a blue flower, the blue blossom that had once been the symbol of Valoran soldiers, from her pocket. With a solemn gesture, she dropped it into the water, watching as it floated on the surface, brilliant against the reflected stars. "Each time we remember the past," she said softly, Let this symbolic flower remind us. We live to allow love. Alex placed his hand on her shoulder, his touch conveying what words could not: understanding, respect, and perhaps something more. Together, they turned away from the lake, their silhouettes receding as they walked toward the gathering of new settlers. Behind them, children from both species played together near the water's edge, their laughter carrying across the artificial landscape, a sound that had been absent from this system for far too long. In their innocent interactions lay the greatest hope, a generation that might grow up without hatred, free from the burdens of a war they had not started. The path to true peace would be long and fraught with challenges. Blackthorn remnants still lurked in the shadows, and centuries of distrust could not be erased overnight. But for the first time in 250 years, there was genuine hope that the cycle of destruction might finally be broken, that the sacrifices of Kalira, Alex, and countless others had not been in vain. As night fell on the new settlement, the stars above seemed to shine more brightly than they had in centuries, illuminating not just what had been lost, but what might yet be built from the ashes of the past.